we're going to be talking all about how to control your data and how to do it technically, you leveraging tools, specifically Google Tag Manager to control the data flow out to third parties. All right, it is incredibly important to have a general sense of what you are sending to platforms. Platforms are a bit of a black box in how they use data. You can generally understand somewhat of what you are sending, but you do not know how that platform is taking that data and using it. When you send data client side, you are kind of not really in control about what is flying out the door. These platforms, they're greedy. They're going to just gobble up and take all the data they can. And if you are just using a client-side feed, it's going to be the maximum amount of data, including many things that you might not want to send if you are trying to be user privacy conscious. A tool like server-side Google Tag Manager can help you identify what is being sent and control it. The problem with client-side data is that one, it's hard to enforce governance. You might leak sensitive information, and if you don't even realize it, that data is going downstream regardless of if somebody has said that they can or can't send that. You are putting yourself at increased liability under GDPR. Sending any personal information without consent can trigger very expensive fines for your company. Enter server side. What server side allows you to do is you can, one, see the requests that are being sent before the request goes out to the third-party platform. You can modify that request, but it allows you to decide what gets passed on to the third-party platform. You have this in between where you're able to manipulate that data before it goes out to the end platforms. There's also plenty of additional benefits to server side, like consolidating your data streams, depending on how you want to set up a infrastructure for the different types of platforms to get your data. You can consolidate all of that information into one data stream and then limit the data to different groupings. Third-party advertising platforms get this data, my analytics platforms get this data. So you can really control what platforms are getting what. So when I say you get to control it, what does that really mean? And so there's this wonderful tool in server-side GTM called transformations. So the three main transformation types are allow, exclude, and then augment. Okay, so let's start with allow. It means that you are specifying only the parameters that are allowed to send to the platform and nothing else. The benefits of that is you have the highest control, right? You are specifying exactly what parameters get through. It's very restrictive, good for privacy. The problem with allow is really that you risk missing data, right? Critical data, right? Like if you're not 100% sure what data needs to get sent through per platform, you risk basically breaking attribution and all of your tracking. It also takes a lot of maintenance. If parameters change or the data changes in your request, you would have to continually look to see what data is allowed and potentially make modifications over time of what data is actually allowed or not. Finally, it's much harder to scale. If you have like a lot of different events and a lot of different vendors that you want to send out different types of feeds to, you would have to have like a lot of different allow lists. Exclude. So this is the exact opposite of what we just looked at. With exclude, you are specifying what you don't want to go through. And the nice thing about this is it's more scalable. You are specifically calling out only things that you don't want. If you're not sure what needs to get sent and you just want to limit certain information from coming through, so I don't want to send IP address or the user agent or the device information, then I just have to say I don't want to send those too. And so this gives you a more flexible approach. This is great also for meeting specific requirements for privacy and compliance. If you know what information should not go to the platforms, and you don't need to touch everything else, right? Like with allow, you have to really go in there and see exactly every single field that you want to send, versus this where you don't really need to touch anything except the fields that you don't want to send over. Drawback to this is it's a little bit of a reactive approach. Like you have to know what bad data exists in advance if you want to block it. It does take some ongoing monitoring, because as new parameters are added, potentially you would need to stay vigilant. And then it's also, potential that you could still break stuff. For instance, if you exclude important fields like the gclid or the Facebook pixel, right? Like that would break your tracking and you wouldn't necessarily obviously know. Finally, augment. And augment is kind of the most powerful, but this allows you to essentially change the data before it goes out. And this can be really, really valuable. You can send through hash data, you can enrich your data, you can add additional parameters, you can change the data feed. So the nice things about this is that one, it's very customizable. So if you want to hash an IP address and add on additional information, this really gives you complete control of what information goes out and what that information looks like. You can fix different gaps without exposing it to the client side. So you don't want, for instance, your email to be in the client side, but you do want to send your email for enhanced conversions. You can, send a unique ID or identifier or a transaction ID, for instance, if you're doing a purchase, downstream to server-side GTM. Server-side GTM could do a lookup table to, for instance, a Firestore database, some kind of database that's storing this information, pull in that email address, and then send that data out to the platform. And so you're not exposing that information on the client side, which has some more security risks, and you can still send that over. So it gives you some ability to fix some gaps if you don't have all of that information on the client side, or if you don't want to send it on the client side. And allows you to do data enrichment, right? Where you can make that data a little bit more robust. So say you just have a transaction ID and then you want to include additional information, and that additional information exists only on the server somewhere or in a database somewhere. You can modify and add those parameters to your server-side send before they go out. Drawback of this is it's kind of complicated, and sometimes it's a little difficult to get right. If you have like an extensive amount of parameters that you're adding and you are also modifying certain things, right? You want to be aware of everything that you're building into these feeds, because the more you change, obviously, the more there is to maintain and understand what's going out. So what data do you actually need to send to third-party platforms? gclid, Facebook click ID, some kind of click ID that's identifying it and tying that back to a specific campaign. We have the event names like purchase or lead, conversion value, which is optional but important, timestamp, and if you are using enhanced conversions, some level of user identifiers. The point is, you don't need to send everything to get good attribution. Don't forget, you are in control of your data. Client-side tagging, to sum it up, bit of a black box. Server-side gives you visibility, governance, and control, and the transformations are your toolbox for precision.